That's right. Thanks a lot, Michelle. We'll get to that in just a moment. But happening right now in Pyongyang, the Democratic People's Republic of Korea is staging one of its well-known military parades. This one marks the 60th anniversary of the Korean War ceasefire on July 27, 1953. You're looking live at pictures right there of that military parade taking place right now. Leader Kim Jong-un is presiding over this massive parade. His guest, China's Vice President Lee Yuan-chao. Now, these parades are one of the few chances the world gets to see the DPRK's military up close. You're taking a live look now at the two people we just mentioned, Kim Jong-un and China's Vice President. Always, observers are saying they want to see if anything new happens. Usually they stage these huge events to unveil something new. And joining us now is Nathan King, who has been covering international news and has been our UN reporter in New York for quite some time. Just a big show of military might there in Pyongyang. Yeah,
and remember we had this last year as well for the 100th anniversary of the founder of the DPRK as well. It's interesting to see Lee Yuan-chao there next to Kim Jong-un, by the way. He is the highest Chinese official to visit Pyongyang since Kim Jong-un took office. So he is there at an auspicious moment, 60 years since the end of the Korean War, although not really an end, an armistice, a war that still goes on. There's still 28,000 American soldiers on the 38 parallel. But also he's bringing a message, which is basically, look, after the launch of the satellite into orbit last December and then the nuclear test, it's time to get back to the negotiating table, the six-party talks, which of course have been stalled for several years. So against this military backdrop that we're going to see going on for quite several hours, I can tell you it actually hasn't started moving past the viewing stand there. There's going to be a lot of diplomacy behind the scenes as well.
That's right, and the Vice President has been in the country there for the last few days, no doubt, talking about some of those important issues. Also on the table, of course, is the Kaesong Industrial Complex. Talks there have been underway between South Korea and the DPRK as well.
Yeah, and you know, we thought we were going to get a breakthrough on Kaesong just a few days ago. That doesn't look like it has happened, and that would really break the ice, I think, especially to bring the six-party talks back to the table. You need the South and the North to be on speaking terms, and also in that industrial zone, which has been very important for the DPRK's economy. I think this, you know, there's a lot of journalists being allowed into Pyongyang for this anniversary, and I think this gives a chance for Kim Jong-un to show that he's really established himself as the leader. And also, you know, in these parades, they do show off some military hardware from time to time. All the military watchers will be looking if there's anything new. There's been a lot of talk about an update of a KN-08 missile. They'll be looking out for that. But also, just looking at the equipment and the way that the DPRK is rolling out its military. So it's going to be a very interesting few days, and because the world's media is there as well, the spotlight is going to be on the DPRK. Here in the US, by the way, President Obama will be on the National Mall by the Korean War Memorial to address that. I mean, I was just reading recently that 1.2 million people died estimated in the Korean War. It's been called the Forgotten War a lot because it happened so after World War II, but this is probably a good time to remember just the sacrifices on both sides.
That's right. The North Koreans, or DPRK, they call it Victory Day.
Yeah.
And as you mentioned, there was a truce signed, but nothing was ever really negotiated after. So the Korean Peninsula technically still at war. So a lot going on here. As you mentioned, this will be going on for quite some time. It is Saturday morning there right now where this is all taking place. Hundreds, possibly thousands of spectators there to watch and observe the pageantry taking place there in Pyongyang.
Yeah. I think about 1 million people are expected to be on the streets of Pyongyang over the weekend. You can see that there's not actually much movement, so this parade is actually going to start going past the viewing platform in the next few minutes. And these parades do take several hours as well, so it's pretty tough going on the diplomats and dignitaries standing there. Just going back to the war itself, you're right. It's the last conflict of a Cold War period that really still hasn't been solved, and you know, there's been a huge push at the United Nations, which I've covered, about trying to find a way through the rhetoric to try and get the North and the South and the regional partners to sit down and talk, because the stability on the Korean Peninsula has been a goal of China, the United States, Japan, everyone in the region, but it just hasn't had that breakthrough. We've had some fits and starts, but at the moment, the only way diplomats can see Pyongyang sitting down has been through pressure. There's been some rare agreement on UN Security Council resolutions, both in Beijing and Washington, about pushing Pyongyang a little harder than they have been in the last few years.
All right, Nathan King, thank you so much for joining us, your perspective there on what is taking place in Pyongyang right now, again, commemorating the 60th anniversary of the end of the Korean War.